Okay, I love this question. I love this share. Let me read it to you and let me respond. Now, I saw this one back at the start of the month when I posted Who Wants to Ask a Question. The first 5 questions will get answered live. And I haven't come back to it until now, which is good. We'll see what comes out for me. It's been on my mind for a bit, and since you know my history, I thought I'd go for it. Lately, I've been hearing a lot of happiness is a choice messages, and I find it really annoying, like it invalidates my feelings, and the people who say it are somehow superior because they've got it. You guessed it, I'm not happy with where we live. We bought the house when we found out I was pregnant, so I understand we were under pressure and it made sense. But it doesn't make sense to me anymore. My partner is slaving to put it all together, spends every day off either on the reconstruction or in the garden. But I want to be closer to nature. Now we have a view of the main road and it's killing me. Knowing this, my values and my dosha, it feels like programming myself to be happy with this seems like cheating on my true self. Or am I just being stubborn, ungrateful bitch? Or is it really a choice? Can I scream my way out of it? Hope you get what I mean. Thank you. Such a good question, and I will piece it apart as I read through this. It's been a while since I have connected with this person, but I know a bit of the circumstances of them finding out that they were going to have babies and buying a place together. Okay. So I've been hearing a lot of happiness is a choice messages, and I find it really annoying, like it invalidates my feelings, and the people who say it are somehow superior because they've got it. And actually, the later part of your question sort of speaks to this as well. My big thing is that a lot of the time in the personal development and spiritual world, people are talking about just let go of things. And I agree with that, but my angle is that when you can't just let go of the thing, when your mind gets that that's what would be ideal to do, the reason you can't simply let go of it, forgive, forget, or choose happiness over unhappiness is because it's usually rooted in emotion that's stored in your body from past events, past experiences, or maybe traumas that you have experienced. And it's those stored emotions that can manifest in many different ways. For me, I usually put it in a nutshell as physical, mental, behavioral, energetic, spiritual. So depending on the person's constitution and how their body chooses to speak to them, depends on what sort of manifestations or combinations of manifestations they will get. But I find that when you piece all the manifestations together, they actually come back to a few core reasons, events, or emotions, and that really unlocks the key of what is it that I have to process. So yes, some people, I believe that they can hear a message like that and it just speaks to them depending on where they are at in their journey, and they can simply let go or they can make a choice. But when we find it hard to simply let go or make a choice otherwise, or to think positively instead, when we find that challenging, that's when I like to go deeper. And you've shared a little bit of the story as to what I think might be rooted in this, and why you've got emotions that are stored that is preventing you from making this choice. And I absolutely agree with what you have said later on is, let me use your words because it was really good. It feels like programming myself to be happy with this seems like cheating on my true self. Now, you have been in amongst my work, and say, for example, the release course is all about process your emotions and connect with your true nature. And that is ultimately what I want everyone to do, to connect with their true nature, to live out their soul purpose. You've mentioned that you've done work on your values, you know about your dosha constitution. And that is where we sometimes will make what feels like really difficult choices. And it can be even more challenging when it doesn't just involve ourselves making a decision or a choice, but we've got to communicate and get a partner on board, family are involved, and it feels like there's a risk of losing a lot of things. So I would definitely look at why is it that I feel what I would say triggered by hearing those messages, and then going, right, which you have, is okay, I am actually unhappy. Now, I don't know where you're hearing these messages, but one thing that I struggle with sharing my work on social media is that I can't put a lot of context or a lot of explanation behind what it is I'm sharing. And so it can be misinterpreted, which is one of my biggest fears. It can be misunderstood as well. And so it really depends who you're going to work with and where they're at on the journey as to how they're going to interpret or maybe coach you through what does it mean that happiness is a choice. So I think I've explained that is that the triggering feeling is okay, what's really going on here is that actually you're unhappy. And great that you've asked this question because you're willing to explore it further. But why is it that I can't make this choice, even though I know that it would be better for me? Is because there's other events in the past that are stored in your body that have not been processed that make it hard to actually let go of being unhappy and choosing happiness. Now, I will also say that happiness and unhappiness are feelings and states of being that everyone is probably going to experience from time to time, season to season. It's not about avoiding the unhappiness, the anger, the sadness, the depression, etc. It's about embracing it and listening to the deeper messages that you might be able to glean from this. So feeling like it invalidates my feelings and these people are somehow superior. So when we feel like someone's superior, I think what could be a suggestion for you to take on, if you're able to, is to be curious. How is it that these people chose happiness? Because again, if you're seeing this stuff, these messages on social media, it can be really easy to go, that person's got it easy. But what I've found and what I love to do on my podcast is interview people and ask them, okay, where are you at now? But where have you been? And I love a good pain story. I love to hear that the challenges that people have overcome. So again, social media can only give you a level of superficiality and a level of depth. It feels like it invalidates my feelings. And this is where being aware of where you're at on the journey can be really useful, because I think there is a time and a place. I feel there is a time and a place when we simply need to be heard, that we simply need to vent it out and not be fixed. And then there are times when we're actually ready to receive coaching, take that coaching on board, put it into action, even though it might be uncomfortable, and see what happens. But this is where you've got to work out, where am I at on my journey and what is it that I might need? Do I just need to vent, or do I want to receive some sound advice and then look into myself and make a grounded decision as to whether or not I'm ready to take action? Now, my thing is that we don't give too much energy to the negative, the whinging, the venting, the bitching and the moaning and groaning, is that you save that for a release process and you can get all of the negativity, criticism, judgment, nastiness, victimhood, frustration and blame out in a set and a very intentional pocket of time, so that it's not seeping into your day-to-day life. Okay, so we bought the house when we found out I was pregnant, so I understand we were under pressure and it made sense. So for anyone who is expecting a baby anytime soon, I have to say I find it crazy the amount of people that I've interacted with who just before they're about to give birth to a baby, buy a house, choose to rip apart and renovate their house, or engage in some sort of big move. And I think that it must trigger something in people that makes them feel that they've got to do this. And I feel like it's a huge factor as to why some of these babies that I've met are overdue in quotation marks or taking a little while longer to come out because the mother, the family unit doesn't actually feel safe because they haven't got the house isn't good enough, the renovations haven't been completed, so the baby waits until things feel comfortable before it can come out. And then, of course, there are timelines and deadlines that sometimes the baby won't meet. So, if you are listening to this and you are pregnant, please reconsider whether or not you actually engage in big moves, depending on where you're at and what your nervous system can handle. Just reconsider whether or not it is really necessary. Now, I don't say this to make you feel guilty for your decisions because a lot of people have done that. But thank you as well for sharing this because it is something that I wanted to raise. And there's been a handful of people that I've been in the midst of coaching whilst they're pregnant, and it's come up for whatever reason and whatever it triggers, it's come up that they might be moving, they might be doing this. And actually, we have deep conversations and reflection and contemplation on, is it really necessary? What is the come from place? What is driving this decision? And you can always change your mind, but sometimes that can be really challenging. But maybe you have landed in this situation to be able to navigate your way through this. Because I also believe that every person we interact with, every situation or challenge that we're confronted with, is because we have the ability to move through it and to test us and to also see what it is we can cultivate within us. And now it doesn't make sense to me anymore. So your babies are a little bit older now. You've had some time to think and to reflect. And I just want to throw in here, sometimes people can think, oh, you're a mum of young toddlers, you must be tired and you're not making rational decisions. But as you said, I do know a little bit of your history. We interacted at the time when you were pregnant and about to have these babies and this was all happening. Is that sometimes as things get a little bit easier, more space is created, we can actually start to get more clarity and tune into our feelings. So my partner is slaving to put it all together, spends every day off either on the reconstruction or in the garden. And I bet that he's been triggered by something as well. And this is where I say heartfelt listening conversations, which is a particular style of conversation, comes in really handy. And I'm not necessarily saying that this is a reflection of your relationship, but a lot of the time I see relationships fall apart because people find it too hard to have the conversation and just simply share how they're feeling. They rather would just walk away. But what I'm saying is with heartfelt listening conversations, there's a way to have a conversation, and it's about allowing one another to feel safe, seen, heard, and understood, and not criticized or controlled. And usually for me, so that you can turn up to these conversations with as clear as energy as possible, because everyone can feel anger, everyone can feel frustration, everyone can feel when you're unhappy, is that you release and you process your emotions, and that's what I teach. And then you come to a conversation which really involves just sharing from your heart how everything is feeling. And a lot of the time I get asked these questions and I say, that's just what you need to share with your friend, your work colleague, or your partner. Just those exact words. But they also have to be in a space where they're ready to hear it. Because I could imagine this would trigger someone as well, especially if they're not doing work on themselves. But yeah, the question that comes up for me when I see people put themselves in this position is, what is it all for? And if you're slaving away, not enjoying life in the meantime, sometimes we've just got to stop and think. And that is where I believe death, be it hearing the story of someone losing a loved one or losing a friend, or just experiencing or hearing stories of death I know for me, it makes me reflect and go, right, how am I living life? If I was to have an accident and I wasn't to be able to be as able-bodied as I am now, would I regret not giving certain things a go? If I was to die very soon, would I have a regret for not actually living my life? So it's different if someone finds enjoyment in this. And I don't know if your partner actually finds enjoyment in this, or again, maybe you're very sensitive and feeling into his energy. But yeah, what is it all for to slave away and work this hard? Now, kids can be a big driver as to our why and why we do things. And also, there is a way that majority of society operate, and you can also operate completely opposite to society and make different choices. Okay, I want and I need to be closer to nature, and now we have a view of the main road and it's killing me. So this makes me think of my husband, who is the dosha constitution, very Vata, Pitta dominant. I'm very Pitta Vata. I grew up in the city, and actually he grew up in Dublin City. I grew up in Melbourne City. But when we had our daughter, we moved back to Melbourne in 2014. And we always wanted to move back to Wanaka, to the South Island in New Zealand, which is where we met, and that was the ultimate goal. But the money was good, and he could be at home every night instead of being a mountain guide. And for many, many other reasons, it was a good decision for us to go to Melbourne and have our daughter over there. But then we started chasing it. It never felt like it was enough money in the kitty to be able to move back to Wanaka. And every day he would come home and he'd be nailed to the couch, he'd have a headache. And I knew a little bit about the work of Ayurvedic doshas. And I just know he does not thrive in the city. He has to survive. Just the noise, the traffic, he's like road rage when he's in the city. He doesn't see red lights, he runs them. His brain doesn't function in the city. And so this is where I do believe, and coming back to my true self, is when you get to know yourself, you get to know the environments that you thrive in, which is ultimately what we want, versus surviving. So I find that Vatas tend, because they're so sensitive and naturally sensitive to noise and light, and often get very overwhelmed in busy locations. So you imagine the city, or in this case, the main road, is that everything can get on your nerves. All that traffic, not being close to nature or having nature accessible to you. And this is where I learned a lot about doshas, and for myself including, and I won't go into my story again, but you can do all the meditation and all the emotional release processing, etc. But if you are not designed to thrive in a certain environment, then you're going to have to add a lot of things onto your plate to be able to survive in that environment. And so this is where a lot of people think, okay, I've got to get myself right before I make a move, but actually sometimes the move is what's going to help you get healthier. So, I mean, people might say, well, you've just got to change your mindset, a little bit like the happiness is a choice. People might say to you, oh, you've just got to change your mindset around living next to a main road. But I do agree with you that there could be an element of, actually, my body is just so conflicted with this, and it's giving me all of these other issues and tension in my life because my environment is not where I can thrive. And actually, just the vision I get, and I've seen a meme of it on Instagram, and I'm thinking of my daughter's fish tank, and I really need to clean it out today, is that it needs to be cleaned out. Like, the filter's getting a little bit clogged up, and I know that if it goes too far, the fish will start to get a little bit unhealthy. And you can dump medications into the water, you can do all sorts of things, add more plants, etc. But actually, we need to change the environment. I need to go and clean the fish tank so that the fish are healthy and so that they thrive, and also so that they survive, but so that they thrive and they are much happier. So they're looking a little bit sad at the moment. So this is a reminder for me that I'm actually responsible to change their environment. Okay. So yeah, knowing your values and knowing that you're living out of alignment of your values, that can eat away at someone for sure. I think the biggest fear about making a change for people is that they know they can function in this low level or high level of discomfort, and it seems so uncomfortable. Or you've worked your butt off, or your partner's worked your butt off, all to just give it up. And so this is really checking in with relationship dynamics. Relationship dynamics, I say, will change a lot of the time when a child gets introduced into a family unit. And it's about how have you navigated those shifts and those changes, or did you just get thrown into a house, reconstruction, renovations, and so there was no space and time to actually navigate this. So I just want to repeat this last part. Knowing this, my values and my dosha, it feels like programming myself, in quotation marks, to be happy with this seems like cheating on my true self. Or am I just being a stubborn, ungrateful bitch? Or is it really a choice? Can I scream my way out of it? Hope you get what I mean. Thank you. So in summary, you can definitely do some screaming. You can do the release processing, which I know that you're familiar with because you've done my course with me. Sometimes not being connected in with the work or around people, you can kind of dwindle off. Or when you're doing releasing on yourself, it's great because you'll only process what you have capacity for. However, you will also bypass the bits that are really hard. And once you get to a point of processing, sometimes you've actually got to communicate something. Sometimes you actually have to take the next step. You can clear a lot by processing your emotions on your own, but sometimes it requires another step to actually interact and communicate with your partner, for example. So I don't think you're being a stubborn, ungrateful bitch. I think there are some choices that are easier than others. And when it's difficult to make a choice, even though cognitively or mentally we know that it would be better to make a choice for something else and we can't, then that's when we've got to look at what are the deeper emotions at play from previous events that I have not yet processed. Because the unfortunate, uncanny, and the really great thing is that the same shit, different story is just going to continue to play out until you're ready to confront it, process it, etc. So there isn't any easy way, but on the other side, it can potentially be really amazing. This is something that I don't necessarily think is going to take a week. But, everyone works at different speeds. And yeah, make choices. But if you are in a relationship, try and speak up and share with your other half how it is that this situation is making you feel without any need to actually make a change right now, because sometimes we've got to give it a minute for the message to land for the other person, especially if either of you are caught up in this really masculine push, be in the garden, working on their house. There often isn't a lot of capacity for things to actually land. And this is where I say I want people to avoid the crisis, because your body will keep on speaking to you. You will keep attracting same shit, different story until you are ready to actually work on this at a deeper level. So good luck. I hope that what I shared lands, and I hope you come to a resolution.